This is the YouTube channel for Open Doors Metropolitan Community Church in Seoul, Korea. Thanks for checking us out. We are a community seeking to live out the radically inclusive love of Jesus Christ. We are affiliated with the Progressive Christian Alliance and Metropolitan Community Churches. Please join us now in listening to excerpts from the service held on Sunday, January 17, 2016, the second Sunday after Epiphany. The theme of the service is Arrangements and Surprises, and the preacher is the Reverend Craig Bartlett. This was a Sunday when we had a series of electrical problems which affected a number of things in the service, not least of which were our start time and the quality of our lighting. So our apologies to all who attended that day.
The first reading is taken from the book of the prophet Isaiah, chapter 62, the first 5 verses. As is our custom, if there is someone who would be willing to read the lesson for us, please feel free to do so. Either language is acceptable. If you use one language, the rest of us can follow along in either one.
I will read.
Thank you.
Isaiah 62, 1-5. For Zion's sake I will not keep silent, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until her vindication shines out like the dawn, and her salvation like a burning torch. The nations shall see your vindication, and all the kings your glory, and you shall be called by a new name that the mouth of the Lord will give. You shall be a crown of beauty in the hand of the Lord, and a royal diadem in the hand of your God. You shall no more be termed forsaken, and your land shall no more be termed desolate. For you shall be called, My delight is in her, and your land married. For the Lord delights in you, and your land shall be married. For as a young man marries a young woman, so shall your builder marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you.
The Gospel comes from the Gospel according to John, 2nd chapter, the first 11 verses. On the 3rd day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, They have no wine. And Jesus said to her, Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, Do whatever he tells you. Now standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, Fill the jars with water. And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, Now draw some out, and take it to the chief steward. So they took it. When the steward tasted that the water that had become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept good wine until now. Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory. And his disciples believed in him.
Not yet, but there will. I will point to you when there's a little visual.
In preparing for today, the images of marriage, of course, not of course, but for me, the images of marriage leapt off the page for me. Left off the pages. They are prominent themes in both the Isaiah and the John readings. And I think the reason that these images became so prominent to me is because of this person. Her name is Debbie Thomas, and people who were here last week know that I referred to her extensively in my talk last Sunday. As generally happens with using internet-based resources, I had to refer back to it. So what you Google it, and I just put in Debbie Thomas, and I found out some things about her. She has a master's degree in creative writing. She's the director of Children and Family Ministries at St. Mark's Episcopal Church in Palo Alto, California. She's married with 2 teenage children, and hers is an arranged marriage. You could have knocked me over with a feather when I read that. I thought, what the? She's American and Christian too. She's also of Indian heritage. And beginning in her senior year of college, her parents went through a year of receiving and rejecting proposals for marriage from potential grooms. Each meeting had a familiar pattern to it. She would serve tea, engage in conversation, have dinner with him and his parents, and in a private conversation of maybe 20 minutes, decide if she would choose the man of the day as her fiancé. Well, one eventually stuck, and this was her husband named Alex. She wrote an article on her marriage for Slate magazine. And at that time, she was married for 17 years, and as far as I know, she is still married, as far as we know. And she writes that when the hunt was on for a groom, she wanted to say no, even though she knew this was not an option for her first-generation immigrant parents, still beholden to an honor and shame culture. She protested, I can't fall in love with a stranger. And the answer she received was, we choose. We're not at the mercy of falling and feeling. We choose to love. Well, according to Debbie Thomas, she and her husband discovered that about 3 months into their wedding, that the profound differences they had in each other in terms of their personality and so on. He was more the adventurous type, loved risk. She preferred certainty and stability. And these differences became more and more profound as the years went by. And of course they learned to accommodate them. And that's what all marriages, that's what all modern marriages and relationships do. They have relationships. People have differences. But the successful marriages, successful relationships have something compelling to them, as she writes, be it love, history, common interests, great sex, whatever. But as she writes, arranged couples start out with none of that. All they have is their raw selves. All we had was our raw selves. Now, she has a husband who's a great provider, a loving father, and they have a life of comfort rooted in family and culture and tradition. But, she writes, the losses are significant, and Alex and I still grieve them. On the rare occasions when we talk about this, we express sadness on each other's behalf. I wish you had married a best friend. I wish you'd found a spouse who delights you more. I wish delight would replace acceptance. Yes, at times we think about quitting. We wonder whether our culture has asked too much of us. We worry about the questions our very American children might ask about our marriage. But something always pulls us back. It's an ongoing tension, messier than the words arranged marriage would suggest. Arrangements. That was the situation addressed in our first lesson today. The last part of the book of Isaiah is often referred to as Third Isaiah. The book of Isaiah is in it has been composed and edited in three movements. Chapters 1 through 39 generally refer to the historical situation of Israel in the 8th century BCE as they were dealing with threats from the Assyrians. 40 through 55 usually is agreed upon as coming from the time of what's called the Babylonian exile, when Judah was defeated and their best and brightest were taken to Babylon to serve that empire. But the last part of Isaiah, the last 11 chapters, are believed to be written at a time when the remnant, the people who went to Babylon in the exile, were returning to Judah because of the policies of Cyrus of Persia, the emperor of Persia. Because the Persian Empire defeated the Babylonians about 50 years into the exile. And as John Dominic Crossan puts it, Cyrus and the Persians actually invented the Marshall Plan. If you don't know what the Marshall Plan is, it's that plan that was put together by the U.S. after the Second World War, by which all those countries which had been devastated by the Second World War, including the vanquished nations, received aid from the U.S. and were enabled to rebuild. So here we have a 5th BCE version, the origin of that plan. The Persians figured out that the way to deal with vanquished peoples was not to haul them off into exile, to destroy their monuments and temples. They had figured out that it's much better to allow themselves to be reestablished with a little bit of imperial help, so that they can pay taxes to the empire and thus become integrated into the established system. An arrangement. A nice arrangement, but an arrangement. An arrangement with risks. So if you think about it, how often do we hear about the Edomites and the Ammonites anymore? We don't. Not in the modern world, because due to these integrating policies, these nations basically disappeared. However, the prophet's words that we hear of today speak of going beyond structures, the structures of arrangement. The prophet essentially says, arrangement is not enough. And the prophet declares that this will be a new time, that a new relationship between the great God and this people, Judah, will flourish it will intensify to the point that the words of treaties and of indentured servitude will suffice no more. The language, he uses the language of marriage, the language of delight, because this relationship will be all-encompassing. It will be so passionate that nothing will be able to separate the people from the wellspring of faith that they have in their God. And in our gospel reading today, we hear of Jesus' first sign. Actually, in the Gospel of John, there are 7. They would be called miracles in the other gospel, but in John's gospel they're called signs. Signs as revealing what the nature of Jesus is. And in the story, and we need to remind ourselves that it is a story, that the mother of Jesus, she's never named in this gospel. And there's some scholars who say that there are reasons for this. But anyway, the mother of Jesus basically begs him to do something, arrange something. And she employs the servants and says, okay, whatever he tells you to do, just go do it. But again, Jesus is not content with simply arranging something. He does something which is completely surprising. In the story of the miracle of Cana of Galilee, it gives us an idea of what Jesus is like, and ultimately of what God is like, as the provider of a great source of spirit, of zest, of vitality, which never runs out. So perhaps the lesson for us today is that we do not need to be beholden to arrangements. Because in the end, arrangements are not enough to fully participate in this energy, this life-giving that we call God. We need to be open to surprise. And we need to be open to the intensity of the relationship that is offered to us. And so, let's live with surprises. Okay. 2 questions for today. I asked, this is a question I direct to all of us, does your spiritual, ethical, religious life, whatever you call, does it resemble more of an arrangement than you would like? Do you feel like there's a lack of surprise, a void of surprise? And how might we be more open to surprise, to the unexpected?
We hope that anyone who's watching these service excerpts will be sure to do their own reflections on the readings and the sermon by using the reflection questions that we've offered. Please feel free to send us a comment in the comments section of this page. Better yet, if you're interested in what you've heard, please join us. All are welcome to join us in our worship and our ministry. We worship at 11 a.m. on Sunday mornings in the Haebangchon district in Seoul. For more information about us, our location, and our ministry activities, please check out our website at www.opendooorskorea.org. We hope to see you soon.